It's 1942 on the Eastern Front. German soldiers huddled in trenches are being bombed in total silence. There is no engine noise, just a sudden explosion out of the dark. The pilots idled their engines miles away, gliding toward their targets to remain unheard. The only warning was the soft hiss of wind through the wing struts, a sound German soldiers compared to the rustle of a sweeping broomstick. They called these attackers Nachthexen, the night witches. These missions were flown by teenage girls and young women, some of whom had only recently graduated from high school. Their primary tool was the Polikarpov PO-2. Designed in 1928 for crop dusting and pilot training, the canvas-covered biplane was hopelessly obsolete for frontline combat by the start of the war. The terrifying legend of the night witches grew directly out of these material disadvantages, which forced the pilots to adopt the stealthy, silent tactics that unnerved their enemies. As the German forces advanced in 1941, young women with flight training began writing letters to Marina Ruskova, a world record-holding aviator. They were looking for any way to use their skills in the defense of their country. Ruskova used her personal connection with Joseph Stalin to request the formation of all-female combat units, a proposal that went against the standing military policy of the time. Stalin approved the plan, specifically noting the tremendous international propaganda value that female combat pilots would provide for the Soviet Union. This led to the formation of the 588th Night Bomber Regiment, a unit of female volunteers led by Major Yevdokia Bershanskaya. The regiment's existence was a calculated result of the military's desperate need for personnel and the state's desire for a powerful international symbol. The Po-2 biplane was built primarily from wood and canvas, offering the pilots zero armor protection. It carried a maximum of 350 kilograms of bombs, a tiny fraction of the payload delivered by standard heavy bombers. Weight limits were so strict that the crews flew without parachutes until 1944. Every spare gram of capacity was reserved for ammunition and fuel. Because each flight delivered so few explosives, crews had to fly 8 or more missions every night to have a meaningful impact on the German lines. To survive these runs, they relied on stealth. The pilots would approach the target zone, cutting the engine to glide the final few miles in near total silence before releasing their bombs. By weaponizing the limitations of their slow, quiet aircraft, the 588th created a psychological advantage that a faster, louder plane could never achieve. The Po-2's low speed served as a bizarre defense against advanced German interceptors like the Messerschmitt Bf-109. The Po-2's maximum speed was lower than the minimum speed a Messerschmitt required to stay airborne. If a German pilot slowed down enough to aim, their fighter would stall and drop toward the ground. While the pilots navigated these dangers in the air, they faced a different kind of peril back at their base: the extreme discipline of the Soviet military bureaucracy. For example, 2 mechanics were sentenced to 10 years of imprisonment for dismantling a single flare parachute to sew their own undergarments. These women spent the war caught between the lethal fire of the German military and the unforgiving rules of their own government. Over the course of the war, the 588th Regiment flew 23,000 sorties and dropped over 3,000 tons of bombs and incendiary shells. They were the most decorated female unit in the Soviet Air Force, with 23 members earning the title of Hero of the Soviet Union. When the war ended, the legal equality that allowed them to serve began to fade. Society pressured these veterans to leave aviation behind and prioritize family life and maternal roles. Chief of Staff Irina Rakobolskaya later explained that, while combat service was justified during the war, she believed that in peacetime, a woman's maternal happiness had to come before a military career. The Night Witches remain a testament to how disciplined women used courage and obsolete technology to win a war, even as history later attempted to marginalize their contributions.